PrizePicks just released 3 hot dogs. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the best props to pair with those hot dogs. And so I'm pretty excited about these. All right, these should be able to hit. Hopefully they do. Let's have our fingers crossed. They were kind of forced into doing something like this though, because, well, yesterday the tacos that they had went 1 for 3, and that was unfortunate, very unfortunate. Let's go on and get into the slate for today. Going to be covering WNBA, PGA, a little bit of esports, and then mostly MLB. Let's go ahead and start with MLB. So looking at the MLB props, looking at the hitting fantasy score props, we'll see that we have a decent amount of props that are favoring the over via the sportsbook lines that we are getting. The question that we have is, do we have any that are going to be ones that we statistically want to go out of our way to bet? We will see Mookie Betts is kind of meeting that threshold where he is over the projection by the PrizePicks line by 2 based off of the projection, and then over the Vegas line by 2. So that's probably going to be the best one that we're going to get. When we have had this bet the last 2 times this week, they have hit. So I might say, this hits about 70% of the time when it meets these constraints. I might say that, maybe today's the day where it doesn't cash, just, 2 out of 3, 66%, it could happen. But all in all, that's going to be a good one that we have. And then unfortunately, like Matt Olson popping up there again. Guys, the Braves scored 12 runs, yesterday. Matt Olson got on base twice and didn't score a run. The fact that he didn't get his over fantasy score yesterday was crazy. And let's actually take a peek at the MLB lines for today. All right, so how many games are going to be high scoring games? We got Houston versus Colorado, 12.5. We probably want to be attacking that one. Then we look at the Braves game, 10 run total. Okay, so we can see that's going to be another game that we want to attack. Probably the San Francisco versus Cincinnati game as well, a 10.5 run total as well. So we have a few games that we want to be attacking. So if we can find some good ones to go with that are in those games, obviously we want to be chasing those ones a little bit more. So that being said, we have Corey Seager popping up as a decent one. We have Freddie Freeman popping up as a decent one. Mookie Betts is one that we are going to be making with all 3 hot dogs. That's going to occur. Matt Olson we can roll with. Those are all pretty solid ones. And then yesterday in passing, I did mention that with the pitching props, we had a decent strikeout prop one that we could also kind of fade in favor of Trey Turner kind of going off, and would have been a 1 unit profit on both tacos had the tacos hit by using that strategy. That could be something you're running out again today. But Trey Turner has been playing much better. Manny Machado continues his extreme hot streak as well. Obviously, that's going to be a game that isn't as appealing at 9 runs, but still not a terrible game there. Like, you could certainly go out and attack that game. 9 runs that's pretty solid. Like, we're fine with that. And I don't hate that because we could potentially run out a little bit of a stack because Vegas was liking these 2, Bo and Vladimir Guerrero. So you could run out a slight stack there then with that. Obviously, if the game breaks open, that's going to be a good thing. And then just taking a peek at this Houston versus Colorado game, we got Kyle Tucker as a prop. That is set at 10. This is where we have noticed PrizePicks being better at their props recently, is that they've been just doing a better job at setting them. I do think we want to be finding a way to potentially stack that game just because of how high scoring of a game it is. So we could do Alex here. We could do Cron. There are ways in which we could potentially go about stacking that game. And I wouldn't hate that idea, just kind of doing that in a one-off situation, because 12.5 runs is a lot. That means there's going to be a lot of hits, runs, RBI scored as well. Looking at it, we have Charlie Morton for a pitching fantasy score prop that we could run out. Now, he's only projected to get 32.3, but Vegas likes him. Vegas likes him to probably get a win. I would say that's why he's getting the over his PrizePicks line projection by a decent amount there, 4.7. We pull up Charlie Morton here. We can see has been super consistent. Going back to NBA, I love to see lines like this where it's super consistent, where it's not too high or too low. We know that we are going to give ourselves a good chance at hitting a prop like this. Now, what was the worry with that game? That game is a higher scoring game, so that is a big worry. Now, maybe you could potentially do a little bit of a stack in that game as well. Roll with Charlie Morton, roll with Matt Olson. And you could run those out with the stack with each of the hot dogs. And I would say there's some correlation there where, if Matt Olson and maybe the rest of the Atlanta hitters are having a good game, Acuña is probably a little bit too high. But if they are hitting the baseball well and they're scoring runs, that gives Charlie Morton a much better chance of getting a win and almost just getting a win. I would say quality start, not as much so. Then that's it. Looking at the flip side of that, we have 2 that are okay in terms of maybe betting the other under. We got Justin Verlander, and also Bello. And so this is what I hate. This was what happened with the WNBA taco yesterday, where one of our best bets on the day was looking at an under assist total for Alyssa Thomas, and then she gets a points, rebounds, and assist prop available. It's like, really? Like, we have probably the best bet of the day that we have, and now you're giving us that. That was annoying. But looking at this one, we can see Justin Verlander has been under a decent amount. He is going against the Chicago White Sox. That kind of helps him out a little bit. We get the run total, 9 runs. So it is a pretty high run total there as well. But I can see why the data likes him to hit the under there. And then looking at Bello as well, he has been someone that right on the borderline here. Okay, he has been super consistent as well. For the same reason that I like Charlie Morton for the over fantasy points, just given that the data slightly likes the over a little bit more as a whole. Bello for the under that'd be the same reason we like the under there as well, just due to the consistency. Now, this is pretty crazy. One more out in these games and he gets there. That does worry me a little bit. So now let's just see if we are getting any other good MLB based props that we can roll with. We got Chris here for over total bases set at 1.5. He has about a 53.5% chance to hit this one. We can see he's projecting at 2.08. That's a pretty good one that we got. We got DJ here and Juan Soto. So this would be a way to go about getting Juan Soto. We saw that he'd be someone that we might want to be targeting in some capacity. Maybe we go with hits, runs, RBIs, where he is projected to get over by a decent amount. I actually have a decent amount of these. Austin Hayes, Ian Happ. These are all pretty solid ones. Like, we will take these. And if we can find a way to maybe stack those, by all means, we'd want to go ahead and stack those. Real quickly, let's just take a peek at some other props, WNBA. So for WNBA, we have 2 that are kind of popping up as maybe potential underbets that we want to roll with. Courtney Vandershot would be the best one, though, where she's projected to get 7.6 assists. The line is set at 8.5, about a 54% chance for that one to occur. That's the best one that we're getting today. But for the most part, mostly just to stay away WNBA wise, let's take a peek at esports. All right, esports wise, we are getting a few decent ones here where, maybe more of a potential stacking opportunity here where we are betting the unders for, collectively these ones. And then we go to underdog, and this is where we could hedge a little bit and bet the over. I actually was able to do that yesterday with a few that I ended up putting in with the tacos that missed. So underdog wise, it actually ended up being a decent day. Luckily. Honestly, very luckily, whereas PrizePicks was not. And we'll see, though. One of the tacos did hit. Just have a bunch of PGA props. Fingers crossed that we get lucky. If we're looking for some over bets in esports, here we go. Once again, if you want to roll with these, you can. These are big discrepancies when it comes down to. And then where we're getting the biggest prop line differences by chance, Valorant, nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy there. So let's go ahead and get into PGA real quick. So PGA, we have a lot more props today than we had yesterday, and now we are getting a decent amount of prop line differences. So kind of, again, like, I don't mind the idea of maybe on underdog here, we are betting the under for birdies, probably not touching them here on PrizePicks. Let's flip this around real quick, and we are seeing a kind of a decent message here. PrizePicks is valuing a lot of the strokes a half a stroke higher than what is underdog. And so probably what we want to be doing is targeting golfers that have the early AMT time. I mentioned this yesterday. So for instance, maybe Shane Lowry is someone that we're looking at. I believe Wyndham Clark has an AMT time. I believe Xander has an AMT time. Tommy Fleetwood has an AMT time. These are all players where we are seeing a 0.5 difference in their prop on underdog, and they would all make for good over bets there. I want to make that clear. They make for good over bets there as well. We have no idea how this course is going to play. We're making educated decisions, okay, based off of data that's available. For me, I'm pulling in data from similar courses to figure out how the course is going to play and basing the data off of that. We are guessing. We don't have course history to go off of. I want to make that very clear. But so is PrizePicks and so is Underdog. So are all the sports books, okay? We do not have a proper indication of how this course is going to play. It could end up playing vastly different than everyone expects. Hopefully not, but that could occur. So that's where, if you are making these bets, I would say do them, but make sure you're doing them on both sides. Like if you're betting the under for these on PrizePicks, like I'm suggesting, please go ahead and do that then on Underdog. But instead of that, you are betting the over strokes there. I want to make that very clear. And then let's just sort by where we are actually getting the best props. So this is very interesting. We got Jon Rahm versus Victor Hovland, birdie or better matchup. And I actually like Victor Hovland a decent amount. I'm kind of deciding whether or not I want to be on him in outright. But the data is saying Jon Rahm is a much better birdie or better play. Victor Hovland's projected at 4.66, whereas Jon Rahm 5.72. That might be a little bit too aggressive in all honesty, there for Rahm's birdie or better percentage, or birdie or better, percentage, but it's still not a terrible line. Like a match someone versus Terrell Hatton. Another one that I don't know if I want to target. I think Hatton's going to be a very strong play this week. The issue with Hatton is he typically doesn't make that many birdies. He just avoids a lot of mistakes, whereas Homa's much more of a roller coaster. Now we flip it around. I mean, look how tight the lines get, right? Like right away. We flip it around, and now we have this. Rory versus Jon Rahm. Once again, I probably don't want to touch this. Rahm hasn't golfed in a while, which that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, Rahm had been not playing as well as anyone would expect out of Jon Rahm. Rory just came off of a victory. Don't know how Rory's going to respond. You don't know how Rahm's going to play either. Like, could go either way. For Billy Horschel, I probably would favor the over strokes here. I don't know if I want to touch this. I mean, they like the under here. I'm probably going with the over, okay? It's just not expected to play well. And then from there, we're getting a lot of these. 4.5 for the birdie or better percentage, or 4.5 birdies or better. I don't know. I feel like given a major, I feel like that's going to be tough for Rory to get 5 birdies, okay? The thing with it is, it's very much more difficult to imagine him getting like 6 birdies, okay? Say it's more likely that he only gets like 3. You know, like I'm saying that he's not going to smash the over most likely. Neither is Scotty. And they could drastically only get like 2 or 3 birdies. You know, that's how different that could be, but not terrible as well. That being said, I feel like we have a good indication of what we should be looking at this week. Let's go ahead and get into my favorite bets for today. All right, so I'm running out a bet of the day for PrizePicks, but I want to call this out. I feel like we have a good chance for a little bit of a hedging. We are betting on how the course is going to play rather than the players. Now, all in all, I think the course is going to play a little bit easier than expected. That's why I like these bets a little bit better on PrizePicks, but this is what to be looking at on underdog if you're trying to hedge a little bit. And I say that because a bet like this is going to be much better on underdog as well. Like you would almost rather hope for the over on underdog because the payout's better. But these are the best ones that we have to pair with that, where we're getting a 0.5 stroke difference. All are pretty solid. And then obviously we're going to pair that with all 3 hot dogs that we have. Here's another version of that, just adding on a little bit more. Now, once again, the payout's not going to be as much as we would want it to be, but this is still pretty good. I want to call out this as well. I do like the idea of pairing Ricky Fowler up individually as well. You could also do Xander up individually as well. Those are 2 of the best round 1 showdown plays. And what I mean by that is DraftKings has these showdown contests out there, which is just round by round contest. They rank out as 2 of the best plays for round 1 showdown. So in theory, they should be able to go out and play well. Once again, I don't mind the idea of hedging on underdog where we are getting slightly different lines there. And for what it's worth, like I do think Thomas Peters versus Tommy Fleetwood more times than not should be able to make more birdies in this matchup. Like I said, he's one of the better round 1 showdown plays. So that should be a good one there as well. Probably same thing here for Shane Lowry as well. So it's just another way to go about betting that. And I feel like here's a good example of why Tommy Fleetwood versus Thomas Peters is a good one. You have Ricky Fowler essentially going up against Thomas Peters then, like, right? Like that's a good example of it. And then this way, we're not exactly betting on the course setup or anything like that. We're just betting on the player. Okay, so not terrible there. So Matt Olson is making a strong case for most annoying MLB player this year, where he's crushed for us a lot and also been a disappointment like yesterday. So hopefully it's today, one of the best ones that we're getting. And then just kind of a sneaky way to go about hedging, kind of the Justin Verlander one. You could bet less fantasy points and use the hot dogs with him. And then also the last one that I ran out with a bunch of the hot dogs was Mookie Betts for over his hitting fantasy score as well. I wanted to call out Justin Verlander though directly. I had already used up the hot dogs. This is one I had thought of after I already made those bets. And honestly, I'm just too lazy to go ahead and cancel those and just resubmit them because I like the golf props that I was giving out. So Mookie Betts, best hitting fantasy score prop. If you guys want to hedge the Justin Verlander ones, you could also bet the less fantasy points there. Overall, we got a bunch of good game theory thought out props. Fingers crossed that they hit. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing. If you guys want access to the tools that you saw available in this video, link is in the description below. Have a bunch of tools available just for $10 a month. Really, I designed it so that's all you need to do to have a membership. That's really all you guys need. Let's have a good slate today. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.